Welcome back to Ancient Wild TV, where we travel across history to find the extinct giants of Earth. Today's episode features one of the most misinterpreted Permian predator, the formidable Dimetrodon, that is still relevant. Though you might believe it to be a dinosaur, get ready for a surprise as we untangle the true narrative of this extinct animal. First, take a look at this image. If you've ever enjoyed the 2018 blockbuster Kong Skull Island or Jurassic Park 3 back in 2001, you were probably captivated by this formidable predator. Massive, agile, ferocious, and fearless. Those are the perfect words to describe this nightmare from the swamp. We're talking about the Spinosaurus, the ambush master with a sail running down its back like a death flag for any prey that crosses its path, especially fish. However, today's star isn't the Spinosaurus, but another misunderstood creature with a similar sail, from an era far older than dinosaurs, over 200 million years before them. Welcome to today's Creature Spotlight, the Dimetrodon. It looks like a dinosaur, but it's not. It may resemble something straight out of a prehistoric storybook or a toy model, but there's much more to this creature. You may have seen a creature labeled Dimetrodon, the dinosaur, but if the Dimetrodon fossils in museums could talk, they'd say, do we really look that much like a dinosaur? It's an easy mistake to make, given the large lizard-like body and sail running down its spine. In fact, Dimetrodon often gets compared to creatures like Spinosaurus and Stegosaurus, but here's a surprise. According to paleontologists, Dimetrodon and dinosaurs are not even closely related. They don't share the same lineage. Instead, Dimetrodon belongs to a different branch of life called Synapsids. Based on fossil records and geological studies, scientists have determined that dinosaurs like Eruptor didn't appear until the Middle or Late Triassic period, while Dimetrodon lived in the early Permian and went extinct during the Great Permian Extinction Event. That means there was about a 40 million year gap between the last Dimetrodon and the first dinosaur like Eruptor. Further DNA analysis shows that dinosaurs belong to the archosaur lineage, which dominated the Triassic and descended from Synapsids, creatures that existed in the Permian period. On the other hand, Dimetrodon belongs to the Synapsid group. Sauropsids evolved into modern reptiles, while Synapsids evolved into mammals. One key characteristic that links Dimetrodon to Synapsids and not to reptiles is the temporal opening, a hole located behind the eye socket, under the skull and the squamosal bone. It's where the jaw muscles attach. Scientists believe this opening improved the connection between the upper and lower jaws, making chewing more efficient. This trait is present in all synapsids and their descendants. As they say, like father, like son. Even 300 million years later, mammals, including humans, still carry this trait in their skeletal structure. Now here are 3 fascinating facts about Dimetrodon. First, the name Dimetrodon means two-measure teeth, referring to its distinctive tooth structure. It had large incisors in the front, 1 or 2 sharp canine teeth, and smaller back teeth. When hunting, the front teeth would strike the fatal blow, the canines would tear into muscle and bone, and the smaller teeth would grind the remains. Second, no one really knows what the sail on its back was for. For a long time, people believed it acted as a heat regulator for Dimetrodon, but when compared to other animals, that theory doesn't hold up. There were too few blood vessels in the sail for it to function as a radiator. Even paleontologist Edward Drinker Cope, who first studied Dimetrodon fossils, couldn't figure out its purpose. At first, he thought the sail might help it swim, like the sail on Spinosaurus. But since Dimetrodon wasn't a water dweller, the most accepted theory today is that the sail was used to scare off predators or attract mates. Third, Dimetrodon was once thought to be a reptile. Up until the late 1990s, scientists believed that synapsids, including Dimetrodon, were part of the reptile group and even described Dimetrodon with an outdated term, reptile-like mammals. This was because Dimetrodon resembled a giant lizard, walking low to the ground with legs sprawled out and a sail on its back, like some modern lizards. It wasn't until the early 21st century that scientists began to change their classification system, studying the living descendants of synapsids to realize they weren't reptiles at all, but rather distant mammalian ancestors. There's also speculation that Dimetrodon might not have been covered entirely in scales. There may have been fur or skin as well. In the BBC documentary Walking with Monsters, they suggest that Dimetrodon evolved into Theropsis, specifically the Gorgonopsids, which were ancestors of mammals. However, this theory doesn't hold up, as Dimetrodon belonged to the Sphenicodontidae family, and Gorgonopsids descended from Theropsis. Both groups share common ancestors, but neither are direct ancestors of mammals. The true ancestor of mammals is likely some species of Helicosauria, which looked similar to Dimetrodon, evolving into cynodonts and later giving rise to mammals. That concludes our exploration of Dimetrodon. Hopefully you've learned more about this ancient predator from the Permian period and won't confuse it with a dinosaur again. Pokemon, short for pocket monsters, are creatures of wonder with unique powers. Whether in lush forests, scorching deserts, towering mountains, or deep oceans, you'll find their presence everywhere. Equipped with a trusty Pokédex and a few red and white Pokéballs, young trainers set off on adventures, exploring mysterious creatures in far-off lands. Their curiosity drives them to spend thousands of hours on this journey, even though the creatures they pursue don't exist in reality. Many of us have likely wished that these strange creatures, small enough to fit inside a ball, were real. And while they might not have the supernatural abilities to breathe fire or spit smoke, ancient creatures were no less extraordinary. When we think of ancient life, most of us immediately think of dinosaurs. It's normal, maybe even strange, if dinosaurs aren't the first thing that comes to mind, given how they dominate our educational materials and media. But my friends, don't limit your imagination. Life on Earth stretches back some 2.8 billion years, and those colossal reptiles only ruled for about 200 million of those years. So, what came before and after them? In today's Creature Spotlight, our time machine takes us back to meet another giant from the Permian period. Before the dinosaurs ruled, what did we have? Welcome everyone, I'm Len. The Permian period, the last geological period of the Paleozoic era, spanned from 299 to 252 million years ago. During this time, the land masses that are now East Asia were part of a supercontinent called Pangaea, surrounded by a single vast ocean called Panthalassa. As shorelines receded and land areas expanded, the climate experienced dramatic changes. The interior regions became hotter during the day, colder at night, and much drier, leading to an increase in deserts and semi-arid areas. These environmental changes created a unique ecosystem, with animals very different from those before and after. The world in the Permian period saw the first large, fully terrestrial four-legged creatures emerge, alongside amphibians and reptiles that had existed since the Carboniferous period. Among them, it would be a major oversight to forget about the presence of massive, short-legged, short-snouted creatures known as Scutosaurus. Scutosaurus, or shield lizard, is a genus of large, extinct reptiles known for its biological armor, its names reflecting its biological makeup. Let's delve into this first massive creature. When I say massive, I mean truly huge. Not just compared to earlier life forms, but even by today's standards. Of the reptiles that haven't gone extinct, the saltwater crocodile holds the record for size, reaching up to 7 meters long and weighing between 500 kilograms to 1 ton. However, Scutosaurus could grow up to 3 meters long, with a barrel-shaped chest nearly 70 centimeters wide and weigh over 1 ton. Beyond its enormous size, the biological structure of this creature made it even more imposing. As its name suggests, Spinosaurus was covered in a formidable shield-like armor. Its entire body was protected by a layer of thick bony plates beneath a tough, scaly hide. Each plate featured small conical spikes, and its massive chest was shielded by thick, curved ribs that connected to a short yet sturdy spine. Although heavy and slow, Spinosaurus was built to withstand attacks. Beneath this armor, layers of strong muscle wrapped around its bones, creating a defense system similar to the lamellar armor used by medieval knights. This type of armor, composed of hundreds or even thousands of metal, bone, or leather scales, protected warriors in battle while still allowing flexibility. Spinosaurus's defense resembles that of the cataphracts of the Byzantine Empire or the famous armored cavalry of ancient nomadic tribes. In addition to its armor, Spinosaurus had another defining feature: its bulging cheeks, caused by the development of its skull bones, which is why it's classified as part of the Permian family, or cheek lizards. Despite its intimidating appearance, Spinosaurus was actually a peaceful herbivore. We know this because its flat teeth were designed for chewing plants, not for hunting. Its heavy armor also reflects its defensive nature, built to fend off top predators like the Gorgonopsia, who would otherwise prey on the slow-moving Spinosaurus. Because it was a herbivore in a dry environment, Spinosaurus likely lived alone or in small herds. This is understandable, as its large size required an enormous amount of food, and living in large groups would only deplete available resources. Some theories suggest that they may have migrated to areas with abundant water and food during periods of drought, much like modern-day animals in Africa and South America, where dry seasons are followed by heavy rains that create lush swamps and wetlands. Although Spinosaurus is classified as a reptile, it has no relation to modern reptiles like crocodiles, lizards, or iguanas. The term reptile actually refers to primitive reptilian forms that first appeared during the Permian period. Researchers divided these early reptiles into two groups: parareptiles, near lizards, and eureptiles, true lizards, based on the number of temporal openings in their skulls. Parareptiles had none, while eureptiles had two. Modern reptiles and birds are part of the eureptiles group. Some of you might wonder why birds are mentioned here. As we've discussed in a previous video, birds evolved from dinosaurs, and dinosaurs were reptiles. Archosaurians like Spinosaurus didn't have temporal openings, so they were classified as parareptiles, a group that went extinct by the end of the Permian. Spinosaurus was one of the 70% of land vertebrates wiped out during the Great Permian extinction. This catastrophic event, caused by massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia, spewed ash, lava, and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere, burying many species under layers of rock for hundreds of millions of years until their fossils were unearthed. Spinosaurus is considered relatively lucky, as scientists have been able to reconstruct nearly its entire skeleton, whereas many other creatures are known only from fragments of a tail or snout. Now that we've learned about Spinosaurus, let's dive into the creature that was its mortal enemy and the reason why it needed such heavy armor: Gorgonopsia, the saber-toothed predator. The first apex predators, Gorgonopsians, ruled the entire supercontinent of Pangaea from the middle of the Permian period until they were wiped out by the Great Dying at the end of the period, from about 265 to 252 million years ago. Gorgonopsians varied in size, from dog-sized creatures to those as large as tigers. The largest known species, Inostrancevia, lived in what is now Russia, reaching a size comparable to the modern Siberian tiger, with a body length of 3.5 meters, a skull about 0.6 meters long, and weighing around 300 kilograms. They had an upright posture similar to today's predatory mammals, indicating that Gorgonopsians could sprint to close in on their prey quickly over long distances, staying out of sight until the right moment to strike. Their skulls were wolf-like, long and narrow, with strong jaws capable of gripping and tearing their prey. Their most terrifying feature was their saber teeth, which could grow up to 15 centimeters long, with a mouth that could open over 90 degrees, maximizing the damage these teeth could inflict. Even when their jaws were closed, the saber teeth jutted out, giving Gorgonopsians their trademark saber-toothed appearance. This is why Gorgonopsians were the original saber-toothed predators, not the famous Smilodon, which went extinct only 10,000 years ago. Gorgonopsians were patient hunters, stalking their prey before ambushing them at the perfect moment, incapacitating them before they had a chance to escape or fight back. This hunting strategy made sense given their relatively weak jaw muscles and limited neck movement, which prevented them from delivering powerful bone-crushing bites. When faced with large prey like Spinosaurus, which could weigh over a ton, Gorgonopsians, whose largest individuals weighed no more than a third of that, wouldn't engage in a direct confrontation. Instead, they adopted a hit-and-run tactic, delivering a deep wound and retreating to a safe distance. Though the prey might not die immediately, Gorgonopsians would wait for it to weaken from blood loss and exhaustion before finishing it off. Some scientists believe that Gorgonopsians might have resorted to scavenging in desperate times, as their saber teeth were prone to breaking when biting into thick hides or tough scales. If both sabers broke, they'd have no choice but to scavenge for food or hunt smaller, softer prey until their teeth regrew. So, were Gorgonopsians mammals or reptiles? The answer is neither. The confusion arises because land-dwelling vertebrates of the Permian period are divided into Synapsids and Sauropsids, which are the ancestors of mammals and modern reptiles respectively. Like many four-legged creatures of this era, such as Dimetrodon, Gorgonopsians were often mistaken for reptiles or closely related to dinosaurs. Adding to the confusion, Gorgonopsians had some reptilian features, like a more developed hindbrain, the presence of a parietal eye, a third eye located on top of the head, which helps regulate hormones and sense environmental changes, and being ectothermic, cold-blooded. But the single temporal opening in their skulls and their upright posture are characteristics typical of mammals, including humans. So, while Gorgonopsians were classified as Synapsids, they weren't the direct ancestors of modern mammals. Gorgonopsians disappeared completely during the Great Permian extinction. Along with Spinosaurus and many other giant creatures of the era, the entire Synapsid group was nearly wiped out, except for Cynodonts, the only survivors that would eventually evolve into modern mammals. Interesting fact. In the BBC documentary series Walking with Monsters, Gorgonopsians are depicted hunting Spinosaurus, but the creature shown was actually Inostrancevia, not Gorgonops. Inostrancevia fossils were found in Russia, while Gorgonops fossils were discovered in Africa. During the Permian period, Russia was part of northern Pangaea, while Africa was in the southern region. Spinosaurus fossils have only been found in Russia, so the only Gorgonopsian large and strong enough to hunt Spinosaurus would have been Inostrancevia, the king of the north. Both Spinosaurus and Gorgonopsians were discovered in the same region by the same person, the Russian geologist and paleontologist Vladimir Amalitsky. His lifetime of scientific work unearthed enough Permian land fossils to fill 2 train carriages. These monumental contributions earned him the title Godfather of Permian Paleontology. Thanks to his discoveries, we know that Earth's history is much more than just dinosaurs and humans. It's a story rich with forgotten giants. The Permian period marked the first appearance of truly massive land animals, with Spinosaurus and Gorgonopsians standing as its most iconic representatives. They ruled as the dominant herbivore and carnivore of their time. But where there are rulers, there are always the ruled. Lystrosaurus was one such subject. Lystrosaurus was a small to medium-sized herbivore, ranging from 0.6 to 2.5 meters long, with some sources comparing its size to modern pigs. Its most distinctive feature was its short, narrow skull, with two long, outward-facing tusks. These tusks were likely used for digging, defense, attracting mates, or asserting dominance, but definitely not for tearing flesh. Beyond the two tusks, it had no teeth, only a beak-like mouth similar to a turtle's, used for eating plants and roots. This peculiar appearance suits its name, which means shovel lizard. Lystrosaurus's underground lifestyle likely helped it avoid the giant predators of the time. Escaping from a Spinosaurus would have been difficult, and wandering near a Gorgonopsian would have been even worse, like walking straight into the jaws of a lion. But despite its name, Lystrosaurus wasn't a real lizard. It was a primitive mammal-like creature classified as a synapsid, distinct from the reptiles of its time, which belonged to the sauropsid group. In summary, while Lystrosaurus was one of the first fully terrestrial vertebrates to appear in the Permian, it didn't have saber teeth or a massive body. Other than its strange appearance, Lystrosaurus wasn't particularly remarkable. But hold on, slow down a bit. The ancients often said, life has its ups and downs. And although Lystrosaurus wasn't human, it still benefited from this saying. For most of the Permian, Lystrosaurus wasn't a standout creature, but that all changed when the time was right. Like a weakling suddenly becoming the strongest thanks to a twist of fate, Lystrosaurus rose to dominance in a way no one expected, through the worst extinction event ever recorded. Survival is a brutal game where each player has only one life. No matter how dominant, how large, or how many prey you've taken down, one wrong step could lead to extinction. During the Great Permian extinction, earthquakes, lava flows, ash, sulfur dioxide, and extreme heat brought the world to the brink of apocalypse. Millions of years of evolution were wiped out in an instant. If the land wasn't buried under lava, it was turned into barren wastelands of stone and sand. Entire ecosystems were burned to the ground, poisoned by acid rain, or suffocated by an atmosphere filled with sulfur dioxide and carbon. In short, devastation was the order of the day. The oceans lost 97% of their life, while fewer than a third of land animals survived. The towering giants were the first to go. The extreme climate and scarce food wiped them out. But life finds a way. From the ashes of the old world, the little ones rose up, either by luck or by strength, or maybe both. Lystrosaurus survived by climbing over the lifeless bodies of Gorgonopsians and Spinosaurus. Its small size and burrowing habits helped it escape the worst of the heat and toxic atmosphere. As the surface baked in the relentless heat of the sun, with no ozone layer to protect it, Lystrosaurus hunkered down in its burrows, safe from the burning rays. Those who survived above ground would have been roasted alive or dried out into mummies. Lystrosaurus may have even gone into hibernation deep underground during this harsh period, a survival tactic that it had practiced throughout its life. Meanwhile, the toxic air and low oxygen levels were nothing new to Lystrosaurus, whose burrowing lifestyle had already prepared it to survive in tight, oxygen-poor spaces. With a safe home, the next challenge was finding food. Green plants were now scarcer than gold. But Lystrosaurus wasn't picky. Roots, seeds, and insects still hiding in the ground became life-saving meals. It wasn't the most delicious fare, but it was enough to survive on. If they were lucky, they might even find some mushrooms thriving on the decaying bodies of other creatures. Life also became more peaceful for Lystrosaurus. Without giant predators hunting them down, they no longer had to live in constant fear. Although food was harder to find, At least they didn't have to worry about being someone's next meal. Thanks to its survival strategies, Lystrosaurus thrived in a post-apocalyptic world, filling the void left by the extinction of larger animals. At one point, an estimated 95% of land vertebrates were Lystrosaurus. But don't celebrate too soon. Their time in the sun was short-lived. Lystrosaurus wasn't the only creature to survive the extinction. Massive reptiles, adapted to extreme heat, still roamed the earth. Their scaly hides prevented water loss, and the searing ground heated their blood, making them quick and active hunters. They had a taste for meat, especially the slow-moving Lystrosaurus, which dug in the dirt without a care in the world. Every large predator had died off, but Lystrosaurus was still mindlessly digging for roots. The reptiles couldn't help but laugh at their stupidity. Everyone's gotta eat, right? They thought. Welcome to the feast. Here comes the Lord of the Reptiles, Archosaurus. The age of reptiles had begun. And with that, we wrap up the story of Lystrosaurus. As for what happened next, what makes you think a small creature like Lystrosaurus could hold on to its moment of glory for the next 200 million years of the age of dinosaurs? I appreciate your viewing of today's Ancient Wild TV exploration. Click that like button and subscribe for more amazing trips into the prehistoric world if you have discovered something fresh about Dimetrodon. Watch this space for our next episode, which explores another amazing species from the past.